At the time, I didn't say anything since, in my mind, being at home all day probably was taking a toll on her, and I didn't want to seem controlling. However, what made me suspicious was her constant texting and going out of the room for calls. She never did that for anyone besides this one friend of hers. I asked her about it, but she gave me vague answers about gossip. The moment that took it too far was when I came home last week and saw her outside talking on the phone. This wasn't out of the ordinary, but I remember seeing my son on the floor, crying alone. I was furious at my wife for just leaving him alone in the house, but when I went to pick him up and smelled the horrible stench coming from him, I was beyond furious. His diaper seemed like it hadn't been changed since that morning. I quickly changed his diaper and rushed outside with him in my arms. I was enraged. I snatched her phone from her hand and bolted back inside. I locked my wife outside to have a talk with this friend of hers alone. I had my suspicions about who it really was, and when I heard a male voice calling out her name and asking who was there, I immediately knew what was going on. He ended the call as soon as he heard my voice. I then proceeded to lock the front door to make sure my wife couldn't enter the house at all and proceeded to screenshot as much of their chat as I could, then sent them to myself before deleting them on her phone. About 5 minutes later, she was still banging on the glass door leading to the backyard. I reluctantly opened it and was met with a smack in the face. Remember, all of this was happening while I was holding my toddler in my arms. As soon as she realized what she had done, she apologized profusely, started crying, and tried to hug me. I pushed her away and told her to meet me at the dining table. I told my daughter to quickly take care of the baby so I and her mom could have a quick chat. I kept it simple. I told her this was her only chance to have even a sliver of a chance of getting me back. If she messed up this talk, it was over on the spot, no lies, nothing. She kept trying to apologize, saying it wasn't that serious. I reminded her that she not only betrayed me but also could have easily done serious harm to her son by leaving him alone in the house like that. I then simply asked, who? For how long? And did you sleep with him? She replied with my ex-boss Daniel, 6 months, and she didn't answer the last one, so I kept reminding her that this was her last chance. She then just simply nodded. I then asked her if they used protection. At this, she started crying and begging me for forgiveness. She said she would block him then and there, would never contact him again, and I could sleep with any woman I wanted from now on. I guess Lisa heard the commotion and came downstairs. I told her to go back up, but she just walked to my wife and asked her if I knew about Daniel. Up to this point, I was calm, but upon hearing this, I swear even I started tearing up. I asked Lisa if she knew all along, and she said yes. At this point, I'm full on crying, and I asked her why she didn't tell me. She responded with, because unlike you, Daniel buys me the things I want without having to beg. I then asked her how she could possibly do this to her dad, and she responded with, you're not my real dad. My wife screamed at her upon hearing what she said. At that point, I couldn't bear any of this anymore. I just grabbed my son and got into the car. My son and I are currently staying at my parents' house. I've basically been drinking myself to sleep every day thanks to this situation. My son is being taken care of right now, but I'm beyond hurt. I've canceled my ex-daughter-in-law. Lisa has been blowing up my phone nonstop with apologies. I simply responded with, get a lawyer and tell that ungrateful daughter of yours to start calling Daniel her dad. I'm disowning her, and then I blocked my wife. I didn't respond to Lisa, I just simply blocked her. I guess my wife told our friends what she and Lisa did, and now they have been texting me nonstop. They understand how I feel but believe I'm going too far by divorcing my wife without hearing her out. They also keep telling me that disowning Lisa is definitely going too far, as she's only a kid and didn't understand what she was doing. I just can't get over the things she told me. I've worked my ass off to give my wife and daughter luxuries I could have only dreamed of as a kid, and this is how I get paid back? Lisa, 13 years old, is old enough to understand that hiding her mom's affair is bad and definitely purposely used those words to hurt me. But a part of me believes there is still hope. A few family counseling sessions later, and we can go back to living the life I once considered a fairy tale. I'm beyond destroyed by this whole situation. A part of me just wants to see them burn, but the other part of me believes there is still hope. Am I really going too far? Is there still hope? Update, 4 days later. First off, I just want to thank you guys for the support. This past week has been the hardest period of my life. Seeing the love you shared with the woman you considered your partner for life just vanish hit me worse than anything else. To those who have privately messaged me, thank you, and please be patient with me. I have over 100 unread messages to date and will need a bit of time to respond to all of them. I just want to update you on the things that have happened since I posted. First of all, I'm happy to report that I've quit the alcohol. It was tough, but seeing how my life was basically falling apart due to my constant drinking really was a wake-up call for me. As someone kindly suggested, I asked my mom to throw out all the alcohol in her house. The first couple of days were tough, with me being more depressed than ever, but I'm doing much better now. As for my wife, I've had a brief conversation with her, and I have halted all divorce proceedings for the time being. There is still a lot to navigate and a ton of logistics involved, and my decision for divorce seemed a bit in the heat of the moment. I'm not saying that I'm going back to her, I'm just saying I need to reevaluate everything again. What she did was beyond hurtful and irresponsible. If I were to get back with her, she has to do a lot to make up for this mess. I have removed half of the money in our joint account and have stopped paying the lease on my wife's car. Not going to lie, after this, I myself started crying and just hung up. I did see a change in my daughter around the same time, but I just chalked it up to her being a teenager. But hearing this just broke my heart even more. I also want to thank you guys for telling me that it wasn't right to put all the blame on my 13-year-old daughter. I wasn't thinking straight at the time, and when I started sobering up, I did sort of realize the mistake I made. I have unblocked my daughter and have been texting with her since yesterday. She has apologized to me, and it seems like my wife, in desperation to get me back, has confessed the truth to my daughter. My daughter told me that she has stopped talking with her mother since she confessed. I apologized to her for the comments I made about disowning her, and we have planned to meet up tomorrow at the local park.